Well, here we are again, YouTube family. It's March the 8th, and this is all about a dream that Ezekiel had this last night. My husband is a very cautious man and has many times uncovered hidden spiritual things, keeping us from falling into error. After I was given the Part 6 message, the preceding this one, he was very concerned because he knows from experience how much the Lord hates to talk about aliens and things that seem out of this world to most people. So he had a serious check about the veracity of the message. Given that, he went into serious prayer. Well, during the making of that message, a scripture verse from a site that gives out random Rhemas just happened to pop up. Just happened to. And it said, "He who believes in me, as the scripture said, from his innermost being will flow rivers of living water." That's John 7:38. So I knew when I was finalizing the message that it truly was the Lord, because I had some doubts too, since the nature of the material is pretty far out. Even though I had that confirmation and I had an inner sense that truly it was from the Lord, I still would not publish a message that my husband was not comfortable with, because I totally honor and believe in his discernment. And it could very well be that I was making a mistake, so I was willing to put it on hold. Well, interestingly enough, after prayer for several hours and seeking the Lord, my husband opened the scriptures to the very same scripture. "He who believes in me, from his innermost being will flow rivers of living water." He felt fairly, safe in saying that was a good confirmation. Then we asked a sister in the Lord who's very well seasoned to pray on these things, and she came back with, "It is from the Lord and accurate in details." So my husband listened to it a few more times, and he decided, it's not the kind of thing that I would like to hear about or say, but I really believe this is from the Lord. So just in case, I prayed and said, "Jesus, would you please give him a dream, just in case he has any leftover doubts?" And then he went to bed. Well, several hours later, he woke up from a dream that confirmed some of the content in the message. So here's the dream. And I want to say that the Lord's whole purpose in giving us these messages is to prepare the ones left behind, so they know that Jesus prophesied this was going to happen before the church was raptured. So there's no need to despair. God is in control. No doubt about it. And the dream begins. "I was in a large open park field. I noticed a man in a uniform with a ball and bat, and what seemed to be his little daughter as she was running across the field, and he would hit the ball to her. I looked around, and several young high school boys were beginning to come out and practice the game together. Within a few minutes, there were several groups of young men practicing baseball in different places. I thought to myself, oh great, spring talent training. This place will be full. As I noticed other adults bringing lawn chairs to watch, I found a seat and sat next to an older man. Watching the practice games, a woman walked up to my right, whom I assumed was his daughter. She seemed like a normal 30-year-old housewife mother, but she had the most piercing eyes and smile. There was something extremely magnetic about her. I turned my attention back to the boys on the field, casually conversing with the man next to me. I didn't realize it, but she had sat down to the right of me. As I conversed with the man, he asked what my occupation was, and I responded that I was a missionary. And before he could say another word, we were both distracted by a flock of large black birds flying to the west overhead. This was a very unusual kind of bird that I'd never seen before. They seemed like large black leaves floating in the wind. In fact, rather than flying, they seemed to be just carried along by the current. More and more groups flew over us, and there were so many it took about 5 minutes for them to pass. I said to the gentleman next to me, "I've been all over the world, and I've never seen that kind of bird ever." He didn't seem too concerned and said that birds like that had been seen in the area before. But they were so strange. They seemed like harbingers of some sort, and their wings took no specific patterns, but looked more like large black leaves, and their beaks were curved and hooked inward. Very strange. Within minutes after the birds passed, I saw a gleaming copper-colored airship, that looked like one of our stealth fighters flying overhead. However, it was flying in a strange pattern, like the birds. Then several other ships began to appear in the sky, and just like the birds, they seemed more to be floating rather than flying, as if they were being carried along the airstream. Since the birds had not gotten his attention, I exclaimed to the men, Look overhead. Do you see that?" At this point, I noticed the woman beside me, and all of us, in fact, craning our necks and looking upward to behold the spectacle. Just as there was something so magnetic about this woman, there was something very magnetic as well about these aircraft, the way they gleamed and floated. Spontaneously, the whole field full of people began to walk towards the west, in the direction of the plains, and we could see that they were touching down not far away. Many began running as most of us walked hurriedly in that direction. Soon we found ourselves standing before what looked to be a large university complex of some sort. At the front of the campus was a large welcoming center, and various staff members began to come out and greet all of us. They welcomed us in, and we all followed eagerly, as our curiosity was so heightened by this. As we were walking in, the older man I was with had veered off to the left side and was standing at the intersection of two buildings, so the woman and I walked over to him. As we got closer, we could see a strange plasma-like gel substance on the wall and all over him. It seemed to be an opaque, light grayish color. She said, "Are you okay?" He turned, wiping the slime off of him, saying, "Those blankety blank 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 grays. I knew this was them. I never trusted them anyway. They've done this before and I hate it. I don't want to have anything to do with it." He simply threw up his hands and walked away in disgust. Meanwhile, one of the greeters motioned for us to proceed into the building, which we did. Now, taking aside here, the Greys are demon aliens. We looked up and could see more of these copper-colored craft flying overhead, and also small white pod ships with actual civilians like ourselves flying them. A smartly dressed, middle-aged woman met us and said, "Do you want to be flying or grounded?" I immediately responded, "Flying," because I've always had a great interest and desire to fly. The woman beside me, that I had assumed was the man's daughter, didn't seem to respond. Nor did the woman address her at all. She simply seated us at the front of a large auditorium. Two men came in orange coverall uniforms and came up to the woman next to me, who I had always suspected might be some kind of alien herself, though I didn't really believe in such things. They helped her up from her chair, and instantly she transformed into a large organism floating aloft between them. It seemed to have the shape of an upside-down teardrop of sorts, but with cells and vessels pumping some sort of fluid throughout. It seemed almost like a larger-than-life amoeba or parasite of some sort. and it simply floated away between the two men. Obviously, I was taken aback by this, as it was very bizarre. But the draw and curiosity, the pull on my desire to be airborne was so strong, I quickly shifted my focus back to the greeter administrator. Seeing that she was the instructor, I was disheartened at the thought of so many hours of instruction and ground school, as I knew these things took a long period of time to learn. She must have read my thoughts, because she told me, "Oh no, this won't take any time at all. The capsule is very user-friendly, and it simply will do whatever you want it to do, just by your thought patterns. It's very intuitive that way." In my excitement, I got up from my seat and began to walk towards one of the pods to get a closer look. And as I did, a personage of some sort, about 15 feet in front of me, with its back to me, whirled around to face me. At that moment, I could see it was an angel in gleaming armor who looked intently into my eyes and said, "Stop. Do not go there. Don't do it." At this point, I began to awaken slightly from the dream. I reached for my Bible to ask the Lord if it was from Him. Before I could pick up my glasses to read from the head of the bed, I heard a voice say, "Faithful and true," and I slipped back into the dream. I saw Jesus standing in front of me with the most beautiful countenance and kindest eyes, saying, "Faithful and true." I turned to a scripture about honesty and truth. I can't even tell you which one it was, but I began to slip back into the dream, and I saw Jesus standing in front of me. "I am faithful and true. You can trust what I give you because it is honest." I just asked the Lord if it was from Him, and I got the scripture about honesty, and here's Jesus back in the dream looking at me and telling me that He's faithful and true and honest. Then I awoke, and that's the end of his dream episode. So there are elements in this dream that really parallel some of the things the Lord had given me in part 6 of these messages, What is to Come. And it was a real confirmation for him that this is something we know it's something he doesn't like to talk about, but it's something he needs to talk about right now. And that was a confirmation. So the Lord bless you, YouTube family, and I hope that these dreams and these messages are something that you hang on to, especially pass on to your loved ones that you know are not going to be raptured, because there's going to be so much confusion when things start happening that it'll be absolutely priceless for them to know that the Lord foretold all of this before we were raptured. God bless you, YouTube family. Keep us in prayer, please. Thank you.